August 19th, 1969, Abbey Road Studios, room 43. A single misplaced cable is about to create rock history or destroy it. George Harrison stares at a wall of unmarked jacks, sweat beading on his forehead. The Beatles are falling apart. John's in a hospital bed. The lawyers are circling. And this refrigerator-sized monster might be their last shot at magic. One wrong connection, one accidental twist of a dial. In 30 seconds, it will either save the song that becomes their most streamed hit or bury it forever.
It's Abbey Road.
April 1969. London feels like a pressure cooker ready to explode. Inside Apple Corps at 3 Savile Row, the dream is dying a slow, brutal death. Lawyers feast on contracts like vultures. Alan Klein, the New York shark they've hired to save them, promises miracles while Paul McCartney's trust crumbles by the hour. Staff joke about signing their lives away, but nobody's laughing. George Harrison can't breathe in that tomb of broken promises. So, he runs. 20 miles south to Eric Clapton's garden, guitar in hand, escaping like a prisoner on the lam. In that moment of stolen freedom, under actual sunlight, Here Comes the Sun is born. 3 chords of desperate hope against the gathering storm. But hope doesn't pay the bills. Hope doesn't stop the lawsuits. And hope certainly doesn't explain what happened when the most dangerous instrument in rock and roll showed up at their door. Late July 1969. The delivery changes everything. Wooden crates stamped R.A. Moog, Trumansburg, NY, contain Harrison's latest obsession. A Moog drip synthesizer that looks like it belongs in a NASA control room, not a recording studio. Bigger than a refrigerator, bristling with hundreds of unmarked jacks. No instruction manual, just 3 pathetic pages that might as well be written in hieroglyphics. This isn't an instrument. This is a loaded weapon. Mike Vickers, the session musician EMI hired as synth wrangler, stares at the beast in room 43. He has to make this work, or the Beatles' final album dies on the operating table. I read those 3 pages every night in bed, he confesses later, a man studying his own potential execution. The stakes couldn't be higher. John Lennon crashes his car on July 1st, ending up bandaged and broken in a Scottish hospital. On July 7th, Ringo's 29th birthday. The remaining Beatles huddle in Studio 2 without their leader, racing against time to capture lightning in a bottle. 13 takes of Here Comes the Sun. No room for error. But the Moog isn't cooperating. It speaks in alien tongues. Every cable connection is a gamble. Every dial twist could be disaster. August 19th, 1969. The final session. Everything rides on this moment. Harrison and Vickers face the Moog like bomb disposal experts, each cable a potential trigger. They're hunting for bell-like arpeggios to open the song, the sound that will either make or break their masterpiece. Then it happens. The mistake that changes everything. 2 oscillators accidentally routed into the same filter. Vickers realizes his error immediately. His face goes white, but as the sound rings out, something magical happens. One oscillator nudged fractionally sharp creates a beating effect between the notes, generating an impossible shimmering wash that sounds like sunlight hitting water. The room falls silent. Harrison's eyes widen. This wasn't in any manual. Don't touch anything, someone whispers. Engineers scramble with pencils and paper, frantically documenting every cable position, every dial setting before anyone breathes wrong and destroys the accident forever. One bump, one loose connection, and the magic disappears into the electronic ether. But the Moog isn't finished with its surprises. As Harrison layers the synth part on August 19th, another accident strikes. A descending ribbon controller slide briefly wipes out an earlier woodwind overdub, sound literally erasing sound in real time. The band should be furious. Instead, they listen back and smile. "Keep it," Harrison says. "It's perfect." The machine that seemed like their enemy has become their secret collaborator, making creative decisions no human would dare attempt. Harrison's hands tremble as he plays the part. The Moog sounds like a baby learning to speak, But that innocent, almost toy-like timbre is exactly what the song needs. Bright enough to cut through dense acoustic guitars, gentle enough to match the lyrics' fragile optimism. One more happy accident slips through. Harrison can't decide between "it seems like years" and "it feels like years." So what emerges is "it seals like years," a hybrid word that nobody fixes, nobody notices, until decades later when isolated tracks reveal the charming mistake. But the Moog's influence spreads like wildfire beyond Abbey Road. Word leaks through the music industry's underground network. The Beatles have tamed the beast. Suddenly, every major act wants their own electronic monster. The Doors' Ray Manzarek gets his hands on a Moog for Strange Days. The Rolling Stones experiment with early synthesizers on 2,000 Light Years from Home. What started as George Harrison's desperate gamble becomes the spark that ignites an entire musical revolution. Studio engineers across London, Los Angeles, and New York start receiving panicked phone calls. "Get us one of those Moog things, now!" The waiting lists grow longer, the prices skyrocket. The infant sounds Harrison joked about are suddenly worth their weight in gold. Keith Emerson of Emerson, Lake and Palmer takes the baton and runs with it, turning the Moog into a prog rock cathedral organ that fills entire stadiums. Wendy Carlos uses the same technology to reimagine Bach for the electronic age. Giorgio Moroder builds Donna Summer's disco empire on Moog bass lines. Each artist discovers new accidents, new mistakes that become new standards. By 1975, the synthesizer has evolved from laboratory curiosity to industry necessity. Every recording studio houses multiple units. Every keyboard player studies patch sheets like sacred texts. The revolution that began with Harrison's desperate escape from Apple Corps has transformed popular music forever. August 20th, 1969. The next evening, history holds its breath. All four Beatles squeeze into the control room for what nobody knows will be their final mix together. Cross-fading tracks, locking down running orders, making tiny adjustments to the Moog levels. Paul's bass needs to sit lower. The strings want more presence. George's synth lines require surgical precision in the stereo field. They don't know it yet, but this is their last creative moment as the Beatles. 7 years of daily studio life ending with casual fader movements and quick nods. John's absence hangs heavy in the room, his empty chair a reminder of how quickly everything can unravel. "That's it then," someone says as the final playback ends. No champagne, no celebration, just 4 separate exits into the London night, each carrying the weight of what they're leaving behind. But the song they leave behind is anything but casual. Those infant sounds from the Moog, born from desperation and accident, contain a power none of them fully understand. The mistake that almost didn't happen will outlive everything else they ever created together. May 2023. 54 years after that panicked night in Room 43, Here Comes the Sun becomes the first Beatles song and the first 1960s recording to pass 1 billion streams on Spotify. July 2025, 1.63 billion streams and counting, nearly double their runner-up. The Moog's mistake that almost destroyed the song instead created its secret weapon. Those fragile, accidental tones still sound new to modern ears, giving the track a weightless sparkle that cuts through any playlist, any phone speaker, any crowded room. Before Abbey Road, the Moog was a laboratory curiosity. After the Beatles put it in a pop single, everyone from the Doors to Donna Summer grabbed synthesizers of their own. The infant sounds Harrison once joked about grew up to shape everything, from prog rock cathedrals to disco pulses to today's bedroom productions. All of it traced back to mispatched chords, slightly detuned oscillators, and a band on the brink of destruction, proof that accidents, handled with curiosity instead of panic, can change the sound of popular music forever. The mistake that could have ended everything instead saved it all. Sometimes the best discoveries happen when you're brave enough to let the cables fall where they may. If this behind-the-scenes thriller lit up your day, smash that like button, subscribe for more secrets behind the songs, and drop a comment telling us which studio crisis you want uncovered next. Because every masterpiece has a moment when everything almost went wrong.